Chosen one, listen carefully. This is not an accident. This moment was not random, and you did not click on this by chance. If these words are reaching you right now, at this exact hour, in this quiet space, it's because God timed it. Not the algorithm, not curiosity. God. There are many who could have heard this message, but it came to you. And before we go any further, I need you to understand something very clearly. This message is not for the crowd. It is not for the curious. It is not for those who rush, scroll, or skim. This is for the one who has waited, the one who has endured, the one who has felt the weight of delay and wondered silently, did God forget me, chosen one? Heaven says no. Right now, something sacred is happening beneath the surface of your life. Not loudly, not publicly, but deliberately. God is moving in a way that does not need witnesses yet, because what He is preparing is too important to expose too early. You may feel it, a quiet stirring in your spirit. I sense that something is shifting, even though nothing around you looks different. That is not imagination. That is alignment. There are seasons when God speaks loudly, and there are seasons when He speaks softly, because the instruction requires obedience, not applause. This is one of those seasons. You have entered a time where silence is not punishment. Silence is protection, and God is asking you to trust Him with it. You see, many of the delays you've walked through were not because you were doing something wrong. They were because you were being preserved. Preserved from premature exposure. Preserved from interference. Preserved from people who would have touched what they were never meant to handle. Chosen one, what God is about to do in your life will not make sense to everyone, and that is intentional. Because when God moves suddenly, when He opens doors that no human hand can shut, He does it in a way that leaves no room for confusion about the source. This next move will not require you to explain yourself. You will not need to defend your timing. You will not need to announce your progress. God Himself will speak through the outcome. That is why heaven is whispering to you now. Move quietly, not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring something holy. Some blessings are fragile before they are established. Some breakthroughs must remain unseen while they take root. And some victories are only protected through obedience and restraint. Chosen one, this is not fear. This is wisdom. There is a reason you felt led to pull back. A reason you've grown quieter. A reason you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. God is doing what only He can do, removing the noise so He can complete the work. You may not realize it yet, but heaven has already begun rearranging things on your behalf. Doors are shifting. Conversations are happening without your involvement. Resistance is being lifted in places you've never seen. And all God is asking of you right now is trust. Trust His timing. Trust His protection. Trust His silence. Because what is coming will not arrive slowly. It will arrive suddenly. And when it does, it will not only change your circumstances, it will mark a turning point for your bloodline. Yes, your bloodline. This is bigger than you. Bigger than what you lost, bigger than what you waited for, bigger than the years that felt wasted. God is not just answering your prayers. He is answering prayers you never even knew were prayed whispers from generations before you. That's why the weight has felt heavier. That's why the resistance has been stronger. That's why the delay has been longer. Chosen ones are not rushed into destiny. They are prepared for it. And right now, God is sealing something over your life. But before we continue, before we go any deeper into what this season truly means, I want you to do something small but powerful. If your spirit is bearing witness to this, if you feel that quiet confirmation deep inside you, if you know without needing proof that this message is for you, type Amen in the comments. Not for me, not for visibility, but as an act of agreement, a spiritual alignment, a simple way of saying, God, I receive what you are doing even before I see it. And after you do, stay with me until the end, because we will close this time together in prayer, a prayer that seals what heaven has already initiated. Chosen one, you are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are right on time. And what God has begun quietly, carefully, and deliberately, no one will be able to stop. Let's continue. Chosen one, now that you've quieted your spirit, let me speak to what you've been living. There is a reason this season feels different from anything you've walked through before. A reason the noise has faded. A reason your circle has grown smaller. A reason your desire to explain yourself has slowly disappeared. You have entered the hidden season. Not hidden because you are insignificant. Hidden because what God is shaping in you carries weight. This is the season most people misunderstand. They mistake it for delay. They label it isolation. They call it stagnation. But heaven calls it preparation. In this season, God does not rush you forward. He draws you inward. He removes the applause. He quiets the outside voices. He allows the distractions to fall away, not to punish you, but to protect you. Because the calling on your life cannot be sustained by surface strength. It requires depth. It requires roots. And roots grow in darkness. You may have noticed that fewer people ask about your plans now. Fewer check in. Fewer seem curious about where you're going. That's not abandonment. That's alignment. God often thins the audience before he reveals the assignment in the hidden season. Your value is not measured by visibility. It is measured by obedience. This is where faith becomes quiet, where trust is no longer declared publicly, but practiced privately, where you learn to keep moving forward even when no one is clapping, affirming, or noticing. And this is where many give up, not because God failed them, but because silence felt uncomfortable. But you stayed. You kept praying when answers were delayed. You kept believing when progress felt invisible. You kept showing up even when the days blurred together and the nights felt long. Chosen one. Heaven saw every moment. Every tear prayed instead of cried. Every decision to trust instead of retreat. Every time you resisted the urge to speak too soon. The hidden season has been doing something sacred inside you. It has been strengthening your discernment, sharpening your spiritual hearing, teaching you when to move and when to wait. This is where God teaches His chosen ones restraint. Because elevation without restraint becomes exposure, and exposure without preparation leads to collapse. So God hid you, not from opportunity, but from interference, not from purpose, but from premature access, not from blessing, but from those who would have misunderstood it. You see, not everyone who watches you is meant to walk with you, and not everyone who celebrates you understands the cost of your obedience. That's why God did not bring everyone into this season with you. Some relationships faded quietly. Some conversations stopped without explanation. Some doors closed without warning. It wasn't rejection. It was God reducing friction. He was clearing space, removing voices that would have spoken doubt into something still forming, protecting you from opinions that could have confused your obedience. Because what God is birthing in you right now is delicate, not weak, but sacred. And sacred things are not handled casually. This season has required patience you didn't know you had, endurance you never planned to develop, faith that had to mature beyond emotion. You've learned how to stand without being seen, how to believe without reassurance, how to obey without explanation. That is not small growth. That is foundational. Chosen one. The world celebrates visibility, but God celebrates readiness. And readiness is forged in places where no one is watching. Think about it. Before anything breaks the surface, it must grow underground. Before a seed becomes a tree, it must survive pressure, darkness, and stillness. Too much exposure, too early, kills what was meant to flourish. That's why God asked you to stay quiet. That's why He didn't allow everything to happen at once. That's why your process felt slow, but thorough. He was building something that could last. This is also why the temptation to speak, to explain, to announce, To seek validation has felt strong at times, but each time you resisted, something in the spirit locked into place. Every time you chose silence over reaction, obedience over impulse, trust over fear, you secured your breakthrough a little more. And now, something is shifting. Not outwardly yet, but internally. You may feel calmer than before, less reactive, more discerning. That's not you growing distant. That's you growing anchored. God has been training you to move without noise, to advance without advertising, to carry authority without demanding recognition. Because when the moment of elevation comes, and it will, you won't need to convince anyone. Your life will speak, chosen one. The hidden season is nearly complete. But do not rush ahead of it. Do not despise it. Do not underestimate what it has done for you. This season shaped your character to match your calling. It aligned your heart with heaven's timing. It taught you how to hear God above everything else. And what comes next will require exactly who you've become here. So, stay steady, stay quiet, stay obedient, because what God hides, He later reveals with authority, and when He does, you will understand why He kept you here, why He protected you in silence, and why nothing was wasted. We're just getting started. Chosen one. Now let's speak honestly about what the hidden season has felt like. Because while God was shaping you in silence, the delay carried weight. There were moments when time itself felt heavy. Days when progress seemed invisible. Nights when you replayed the same questions in your mind, quietly, carefully, afraid to even say them out loud. You believed, but you were tired. You trusted God, but you wondered if trusting Him meant enduring endless waiting. And there were moments, private moments, when the thought crossed your heart, maybe I misunderstood Him. Not because your faith was weak, but because your patience was being tested beyond comfort. Chosen one, hear this gently. The delay was not meant to break you. It was meant to build your capacity. There are some blessings that cannot land in a rushed spirit. There are assignments that would crush a soul that hasn't learned how to wait without becoming bitter. So God allowed time to stretch. Not to tease you, not to punish you, but to strengthen you. You see, delay does something powerful when it's handled correctly. It reveals what you're truly anchored to. When prayers aren't answered quickly, motives surface. When progress stalls, hearts are exposed. When doors remain closed, trust is refined. And you stayed. You didn't walk away when things slowed down. You didn't abandon your faith when results didn't come on your schedule. You learned how to stand in the tension between promise and fulfillment without letting resentment take root. That alone tells heaven something important about you. Most people want the blessing. Few are willing to endure the space between the word and the manifestation. But that space is where authority is formed. This is where God watches closely, not to see if you will complain, but to see if you will remain. Because remaining requires maturity. Remaining means you continue to pray even when emotion fades. You continue to obey even when clarity hasn't arrived. You continue to trust even when the evidence is missing. That is not passive faith. That is refined faith. Chosen one. There were times when you could have forced things, made connections prematurely, spoken opportunities into existence with your own strength, taken shortcuts that looked harmless, but something in you wouldn't let you. That restraint wasn't fear. It was discernment. God was teaching you that not every open door is divine, and not every closed door is denial. Some doors stay shut because God is working behind them. Some delays happen because timing protects outcome. And some answers take longer because they're carrying more weight than you realize. What's coming into your life is not light. It's not surface level. It's not temporary. It carries responsibility, influence, impact, and God refuses to release weighty things into unprepared hands. So He slowed you down. He allowed the process to mature you. He strengthened your inner life. He deepened your dependence on Him rather than on outcomes. There were moments when others seemed to pass you by, when people with less depth moved faster, when it felt unfair, especially when you knew how much you had endured. But speed has never impressed God. Alignment does. And alignment takes time. Chosen one, every season of waiting you walk through was calibrating you to heaven's rhythm, teaching you how to move when God moves and how to stay still when He doesn't. This is why you feel different now. You don't react the same way. You don't rush decisions. You don't chase validation. You've learned something many never do: that God is just as present in stillness as He is in movement. That silence doesn't mean stagnation, and that obedience doesn't always feel exciting, but it is always effective. There were times when you wanted reassurance, a sign, a word, anything to confirm that you were still on the right path. But instead of giving you constant confirmation, God gave you endurance, because signs encourage, but endurance sustains. And now, something is shifting inside you. Not loud excitement, not anxious anticipation, but a steady knowing. A calm confidence that doesn't need proof. You may not have seen the breakthrough yet, but you've become the kind of person who can carry it. That's what the delay accomplished. It expanded your spiritual capacity. It refined your character. It aligned your heart with God's timing instead of your own. And most importantly, it taught you how to trust God when nothing around you was changing. That is not wasted time. That is sacred training. Chosen one. The delay did not disqualify you. It distinguished you. It separated you from those who quit early, from those who needed constant affirmation, from those who confused speed with purpose. And because you stayed, because you trusted quietly, God can now trust you. This season required something deep from you, something unseen, something costly. And heaven has not missed it. So if you ever wondered whether your waiting mattered, if you ever questioned whether God noticed your obedience, if you ever feared that time had passed you by, let this settle into your spirit now. Nothing was late, nothing was wasted, nothing was missed. The delay prepared you for what's next. And what's next will require everything this season built in you. Stay with me. We're going deeper. Chosen one. There is another layer to this season that few talk about openly. Because while you were learning to wait, while you were learning to trust God in silence, there was a quieter ache you carried. It came from the people closest to you. Family, old friends, those who knew your history, your struggles, your beginnings. Not everyone doubted you loudly. Some doubted you with silence, some with polite distance, some with questions that sounded harmless but carried weight. Are you sure? How long are you going to wait? Maybe it's time to be realistic. They didn't mean harm, but they didn't see what God showed you. And that hurt more than you expected. Because it's one thing to be misunderstood by strangers. It's another thing entirely to be questioned by those who watched you grow. Chosen one. Let me speak truth into that wound gently. Familiarity often blocks spiritual vision. Those closest to you remember who you were. God sees who you are becoming. And when those two images don't align, tension arises, not because your calling is wrong, but because it challenges the version of you they've grown comfortable with. Sometimes, the greatest test of obedience is not resisting the enemy, but remaining faithful when those you love don't understand your silence. You didn't stop talking because you gave up. You stopped talking because God asked you to. And that obedience came at a cost. There were moments you wanted to explain yourself, to share what God whispered in prayer, to help them understand why you couldn't rush, couldn't settle, couldn't compromise. But every time you tried, the words felt wrong. Not because the vision was unclear, but because the timing was. Some things are not meant to be explained in process. They are meant to be revealed in completion. That's why God didn't ask you to convince anyone. He asked you to trust Him. Because explanation invites opinions. And opinions, when received too early, can interfere with obedience. So God taught you restraint. He taught you how to let silence speak louder than arguments, how to remain kind without oversharing, how to love without lowering what He placed inside you. And that takes strength. There were moments you felt alone in a room full of people, moments when conversations drifted to safer topics because your truth felt too heavy to carry aloud. You weren't withdrawing. You were protecting something sacred. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Not everyone who loves you is assigned to walk with you into the next season. Some are meant to benefit from what God does through you later, but not participate in the formation now. That does not make them enemies. It makes them unassigned. God is careful about who has access to a forming promise, because the wrong voice at the wrong time can confuse direction, and God refuses to let confusion touch what He has already aligned. That's why He didn't defend you. That's why He didn't rush to clarify your path to others. That's why He allowed misunderstanding to linger, not to isolate you, but to anchor you more deeply in Him. You learned something vital in this season. You learned how to stand without approval, how to remain obedient without agreement, how to trust God when validation didn't come. And that lesson is preparing you for elevation, because elevation attracts attention, and attention attracts opinions. God needed you to learn now, while the stakes were lower, that His voice outweighs every other, even the familiar ones. There were times when doubt crept in quietly after conversations ended, when you replayed words spoken casually, but received deeply. But instead of letting those words shape you, you brought them to God, and every time you did, He steadied you. He didn't rush to change the people around you. He changed your footing. He rooted you. So now, when others speak, you don't react the same way. You listen, but you don't absorb. You love, but you don't surrender your calling. That's growth. Chosen one. Your silence has not gone unnoticed. Heaven has been watching how you handle misunderstanding, how you respond without defensiveness, how you remain gentle without shrinking. That posture matters, because when God lifts you, and He will say, He wants to know that your heart won't harden, and your spirit won't retaliate. Your vindication will not come through confrontation. It will come through outcome. The same people who questioned your waiting will one day witness your peace. The same voices that wondered if you heard God correctly will eventually see the fruit of your obedience. And you won't need to say, "I told you so." Your life will answer for you. But for now, stay where God has placed you. Stay quiet when necessary. Stay loving without over-explaining. Stay obedient even when it feels lonely, because God is not asking you to be understood. He is asking you to be faithful. And the season that once felt isolating is becoming the foundation for something much greater. We're not done yet. There is more unfolding, and it reaches beyond you. Stay with me, chosen one. Now, we arrive at something deeper, something heavier, something that explains why your path has felt different from the beginning. Because what God is doing in your life was never meant to stop with you. This calling reaches backward, and it reaches forward. You are standing at the intersection of a bloodline. There are patterns in families that don't start with one person. Cycles that repeat quietly. Struggles passed down without names. You may have noticed it growing up. The same disappointments, the same limitations, the same unspoken fears. Some families inherit land, some inherit businesses, and some inherit battles. And for a long time, it felt like you were carrying more than your share. You couldn't explain it, but the weight felt older than you, heavier than one lifetime should carry. That's because it was chosen one. You were not chosen because you were the strongest. You were chosen because you were willing to feel what others numbed, willing to face what others avoided, willing to sit in silence with God while others ran from the pain. You became the one who questioned what everyone else accepted, the one who felt restless in familiar cycles, the one who knew deep inside, this doesn't end with me. That knowing didn't come from nowhere. It came from heaven. God often chooses one person in a family line to stand up where others laid down, to believe where others gave up, to wait where others compromised. And that person is rarely celebrated early. They are misunderstood, labeled different, sometimes even seen as rebellious. But in reality, they are appointed, chosen one. Your delays were not only about your readiness, they were about breaking agreements that predated you. There were things God needed to dismantle at the root. Mindsets, fears, old limitations that had been passed down quietly. And God trusted you with that work. That's why your journey required depth. That's why your obedience had to be refined. That's why the hidden season lasted longer than expected. He was not only preparing a blessing, he was preparing a shift that changes how your family sees faith, how they experience provision, how they understand peace. Some of the resistance you felt was not just external, it was generational. When one person begins to rise differently, it unsettles patterns that have existed for decades. And instead of fighting those patterns loudly, God taught you to confront them quietly, with consistency, with obedience, with faith that didn't need to announce itself. Chosen one. Heaven has been watching how you carry this weight, how you didn't become bitter toward your family, how you didn't blame those who couldn't give you what they never received, how you chose compassion instead of resentment. That matters, because God does not break cycles by creating new wounds. He breaks them by healing the source. And you became the one willing to heal. This is why your breakthrough will not look small. It will not be temporary, and it will not end with a single answered prayer. What God is releasing through your obedience will rewrite expectations. Children after you will grow up seeing options you never had. Peace will enter places once ruled by anxiety. Provision will flow where survival once dominated, and you won't have to explain how it happened. It will simply be known. Something changed with them. Chosen one. This is why silence was required, because generational shifts are fragile at first. They must be protected from doubt, comparison, and premature exposure. God needed your faith to mature quietly so it could stand firmly when others leaned on it later. And make no mistake, they will. People who questioned your waiting will one day draw strength from your peace. Family members who didn't understand your obedience will benefit from its fruit, and you won't need to remind them of the cost. You already paid it through patience, through restraint, through long seasons of trusting God without visible proof. That kind of obedience does not go unnoticed in heaven, chosen one. You are not just receiving a blessing. You are becoming a turning point. And that is why what comes next will require continued humility, continued obedience, and continued trust. Because when God begins to move openly, when doors open without explanation, when favor arrives without effort, you will remember where it started. In silence, in hidden faithfulness, in a season where no one else saw what God was forming. And you will stay grounded. Because this is not about elevation for its own sake. It's about restoration that reaches beyond your lifetime. We are not done. What God has prepared for you is about to move from unseen to undeniable. Stay with me. There is more unfolding. Chosen one. This is where the shift becomes undeniable, not loud, not announced, but unmistakable. You may not see fireworks. You may not hear applause, but you will feel a quiet certainty settle into your spirit. Because when God elevates, He does not always inform the room first. He changes the atmosphere. This is the phase where things begin to align without your effort, where what once resisted you starts to make space, where conversations shift, opportunities surface, and timing seems different. Not rushed, not forced, just right. You won't have to chase what God is releasing. It will find you. That is the mark of divine elevation. Up until now, your obedience trained you to move carefully, to listen more than you spoke, to wait without bitterness, to carry hope without noise. Now, God begins to move on your behalf in ways you could never orchestrate. You may notice doors opening that you didn't knock on, favor appearing where there was once indifference, people reaching out unexpectedly without knowing why they felt led to. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. God is lifting you without announcing you, because your elevation does not need explanation. There were seasons when you wondered if being quiet meant being overlooked. But silence never hid you from God. It refined you. And now, the same silence that protected you is positioning you. Chosen one. Hear this carefully. When God elevates you, He does not require you to defend yourself. He becomes your defender. You will not need to correct misconceptions. You will not need to confront doubters. You will not need to revisit old misunderstandings. God removes resistance without argument. He handles opposition without noise. This is the kind of elevation that leaves no room for debate. Not because you proved yourself, but because God proved His faithfulness. Some people will notice the change before you do. They'll sense something different in your presence. A calm authority, a grounded peace, not arrogance, not distance, just steadiness. That steadiness is the fruit of your hidden obedience. This is where vindication happens, not through confrontation, but through outcome. You won't need to revisit the past. The past won't be able to touch you. The same situations that once drained you will no longer have access to you, and you won't feel the need to explain why. Chosen one. Elevation in God's kingdom does not come with a spotlight. It comes with responsibility. And because you learned restraint in the hidden season, God can now trust you with more influence, more provision, more access, not to inflate you, but to extend what He started. This is also where acceleration begins. What once felt delayed begins to move quickly, but not chaotically. What once took years to develop begins to unfold in moments. You may feel time compressing, not because God rushed, but because preparation is complete. Acceleration does not happen when you're impatient. It happens when you're ready. And readiness was built in silence. Chosen one. This season will test something new. Not your patience, but your humility. Because when God moves openly, the temptation to speak increases, to explain, to clarify, to share what He's doing. But remember what protected you. Silence is still wisdom, not secrecy wisdom. You don't owe everyone access to what God entrusted to you. And you don't need to announce every blessing for it to be real. Let God remain the narrator. Your role is obedience. As things begin to align, stay grounded in gratitude. Stay rooted in prayer. Stay attentive to God's instruction. Because elevation is not the end of the journey. It's a transition into stewardship. God elevates those who won't forget who carried them through the quiet seasons, and you won't. You remember the nights of waiting, the prayers whispered instead of shouted, the strength it took to remain faithful without recognition. That memory will keep your heart aligned. Chosen one. This is not about sudden fame. It's about sustained fruit. This elevation will not burn bright and fade. It will deepen, expand, and endure, because it was built on obedience, not impulse, on faithfulness, not force, on trust, not urgency. As God continues to move for you, remain still inside, remain teachable, remain anchored, because what's unfolding is not fragile anymore, but it is sacred, and sacred things are handled with reverence. We are approaching the moment where everything must be sealed, not rushed, not dramatized, sealed. Stay with me. We're about to bring this before God and close this season the way it began, quietly, faithfully, together. Chosen one. Take a slow breath with me now. Let the weight of striving fall away. Let the noise of the day settle. You don't need to hold everything anymore. You have listened. You have received. Now we seal what heaven has already begun. This is a sacred moment, not rushed, not loud, just still. Wherever you're sitting, lying down, or resting your eyes, allow your heart to soften. You don't need the right words. You don't need perfect faith. You only need willingness. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with reverence and trust. On behalf of the one listening right now, thank you for guiding them to this moment. Thank you for the timing that only you control. Thank you for the quiet ways you speak when the world is loud. Father, you see the whole story, the waiting, the obedience, the restraint, the nights of faith without proof. You saw every moment that went unnoticed by others. And tonight, we ask that you seal what you have started. Seal the obedience they chose when it was hard. Seal the silence that protected what you were forming. Seal the faith that endured delay without turning bitter. Let your peace settle over them, now not temporary calm, but deep, abiding peace. The kind that does not depend on outcomes. The kind that anchors the soul. Lord, guard their heart and mind. Protect them from distraction, from comparison, from unnecessary explanation. Teach them when to speak and when to remain still. We ask that you surround them with your presence like a covering. Let no interference touch what you have ordained. Let no premature voice confuse what you have aligned. Father, release clarity where confusion once lived. Release rest where anxiety once ruled. Release confidence where doubt once whispered. We thank you for divine acceleration, not rushed, not chaotic, but ordered by heaven. Let doors open without struggle. Let provision arrive without striving. Let favor meet them where effort once failed. For those carrying generational weight, we ask for release. Break cycles that no longer belong. End patterns that have overstayed their time. Let the blessing move forward clean, whole, and free. Restore what was lost, redeem what was delayed, multiply what was entrusted. Lord, strengthen their body, renew their spirit, quiet their mind where exhaustion lingered, bring renewal where heaviness has sat, bring lightness where fear remained, bring assurance. Teach them to walk gently with you, to listen closely, to move wisely. Let their life become living evidence not of striving, but of surrender, and now chosen one. As we remain here for a moment, I want you to receive these declarations not as wishes, but as truth. Come, declarations. I declare that your waiting was not wasted. I declare that your obedience has been seen by heaven. I declare that what God hid, He will now establish. I declare that silence protected you, and wisdom now guides you. I declare that confusion lifts, clarity settles, and peace remains. I declare that doors open at the right time. Connections align at the right moment, and provision meets you where you stand. I declare that generational cycles are broken, and blessings flow forward from this point on. I declare that you will not need to explain what God has done. Your life will speak clearly. I declare that your steps are ordered, your heart is guarded, and your spirit is steady. I declare that what once felt delayed will unfold with grace and precision. I declare that you are not alone, you are covered. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, stay here for just a moment. Let the prayer settle. Let the words sink deeper than thought. There is nothing more you need to do tonight. Nothing to figure out. Nothing to force. God is already moving. If this time spoke to your spirit, you may quietly say or type, "I receive this," not for anyone else to see, but as a gentle agreement between you and God. And if you feel led, share this message with someone who needs peace, not pressure rest, not urgency assurance, not answers, chosen one. You are safe in God's timing. You are held in His care. You are walking exactly where you need to be. So rest now. Walk quietly. Walk obediently. Walk in peace. God is faithful.